Have you ever just been really frustrated that your business isn't growing the way that you want to and you're trying to do social media or you're trying to do X, Y, Z and you just can't get things to work? In this podcast episode, I chat with marketing expert Alexandra Moore and we really chat about working out what's working for your business and doing more of that, or what are the gaps in your business's marketing and like where are people falling off, and being able to elevate that area rather than focusing on all the shiny things. And so we really chat about this idea of the customer journey. And so all the way from the beginning stages all the way to when someone is finished working with you, what is that customer journey for your business? How can you work out where the holes are, and how can you then implement changes to make sure that what you're doing in your marketing strategies is actually helping your business grow rather than being like, oh, I'm just going to get Instagram followers. So I'm really excited for this chat and can't wait for you to listen. So if you don't know who Alexandra is, she is the CEO and lead strategist of Coach House Marketing Incorporated, which is a boutique marketing and digital strategy firm in Toronto. She has a PhD and she excels in developing strategic opportunities for her clients, achieving record-breaking conversion and sales growth rates through data-driven approaches. She is certified as a digital transformation expert from Yale University, so impressive, and she is also a digital advisor for the Canadian Digital Adoption Program. Alexandra is passionate about helping businesses reach new audiences, engage digitally, build partnerships, enhance digital capacity, analyze data for insights, which we chat about a little bit in this podcast, as well as transform business models for long-term sustainability, which is so important. So I'm very excited for you to hear this episode. Let's dive in. Welcome, Alexandra, to the podcast. I am so thrilled to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I can say us for not just the listeners, but me and my baby who was strapped to me. So if anyone on the listening version of the podcast hears any baby noises, it's not me or Alexandra, it's the baby. Amazing. So I would love to know, I just love asking my guests this question to get a bit of an insight into their everyday life, because I don't know, especially as someone who just works from home, it's great to just learn how other people work. And so I'd love to know what an average day in your life and business looks like.
So that was actually a daunting question when you sent through the questions. I was like, how do I answer that in the sense that my days are really dynamic and they're very unique. And so I found that rather than have a strict 9 to 5 schedule, because I do put in, I would say about 60 hours a week, but I need a lot of ebb and flow in my days and deep work. I like taking a full lunch and resting when I'm tired and all of those kinds of things that I feel shy talking about openly, but it actually creates a sense of flow when I think about the building blocks of my day, much more so than the schedule of my day. So on a personal level, if I'm exercising and eating well and doing those foundational journaling, those things that ground me, then it's good. And in the business, it's having our daily touch points with our team and making sure our clients are being well served. The financial pieces, what are the KPIs that I need to look at and make sure make sense? And I think about it that way much more so than at 9 a.m. every day I do XYZ.
Yeah. Amazing. Did you say you do 60 hours of work a week?
Yeah, definitely. So it's usually I'm
Oh.
up early, so I'll do a little bit in the morning and then a little bit of a break. And then, like it's throughout my days are longer, I would say, but there's more of a flow to them.
Yeah, there's kind
Yeah.
of like it's yeah, I can picture that. It's very different to
Yeah.
my season of being able to imagine. I'd get so much done if I could work 60 hours. What a dream.
It's a season too, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, when I first became an entrepreneur, I had read the 4-hour work week, and the goal really was to work as little as possible. And now there's a vision that I'm building, and there's impact that I want to
Yeah.
have, and there's a drive behind it. And I'm also very mindful that if those cornerstones of taking care of myself aren't in place, I can't sustain this pace.
Yeah.
So that is actually number one. And that's like, if that slips, that's a sign that I need to start saying no to things in the work. But I really do want to run at a clip right now. And so and that hasn't always been the case in my 15 years of owning a business. Sometimes I've really needed to go a lot slower. So now it's really a question of how do I fortify myself for that long distance running.
Yeah, cool. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing a bit of that
Yeah.
insight with us. All right, so I'd love to chat with you today a lot about, I guess, the customer journey. I haven't had anyone speak to this before, and I'm quite interested to hear your take on different things. So I'd love to know first, How would you even just define the customer journey so we can all be on the same page?
Yeah, so just for context, the way that I work is by taking a really in-depth look at my client's customer journey, what's happening there, to understand where the opportunities for growth are in a way that is often underlooked or overlooked in traditional ways of doing business strategy. And it's a framework that I've been able to find low cost, high return value for my clients, because when you see the whole picture rather than just at the beginning stage of a customer journey, uh, you're pacing yourself a lot better as far as marketing efforts go. You're spending a lot less time on the glitz and the glam and a lot more time on what do we do when there is a customer already in our realm? How are we taking care of them? So the way that I define a customer journey has a lot to do with the way that I think about growth in business. And it's about understanding relationships and understanding that business is a relationship first and foremost. And so it's a way of tracking what you do and give that brings people to you and keeps people with you, and understanding that at every touch point they have different needs. It's not just that they're coming in the door with one need, it's that their experience is shifting as they get to know you better. And so you can really meet them where they're at and create a depth of motivation in your business by thinking about it from a really human standpoint. But it's also strategically astute because you can understand where your investment in that relationship is paying off the most and where there's money being left on the table, because money is value, right? So if they're giving you money, they see value in what you're doing. So in the game of business, it's that transactional indicator that they're wanting to connect with you more and more. So that's a very long answer to how I define a customer journey.
Lovely, a
It's
long
the
answer.
experience.
Yeah, like from the
Together.
beginning to the end of, I guess, working with you and your business, or not even, I guess it probably starts before they even work with you, and
Exactly.
that whole thing. So could you, I guess, expand on the different stages of what a customer journey might be?
Sure. So I'm not the originator of the concept of the customer journey. I studied it in depth when I went back to school to Yale for digital transformation. And the way they taught it is that there's 5 stages in the customer journey. Sometimes different people will say 4, but essentially it's acquisition, so, or attention, attraction. Where are you getting the attention from? They've never heard of you before. What's that experience like? So that's stage number 1.
What could be
Stage
some
number
examples of that one?
so they're you're popping up on their social media feed, whether through an ad or organically. Your website SEO is strong and they found you that way. Word of mouth, billboard. It doesn't have to be just digital. It's how do they hear about you?
Cool.
uh, and consideration is stage number 2, so that they've heard of you and they're thinking about you. So that stage could be years, it could be an hour, if could be even less than that if they found you on an ad and then clicked and bought right away. But it's all of the stuff about them making that purchasing decision. What sort of competitive analysis are they doing? Like, who else are they looking to for a solution to their problem? What sort of questions do they have about your product? What sorts of concerns do they have? Are they price sensitive? All of that. How long are they staying on your website? How do they trust you? All of the things that we do in a business to alleviate those concerns and say, no, yes, buy from us, that happens in the consideration stage. The purchase stage is the actual transaction. So that's stage number 3. So that's where when we look on a data side, the data side of the customer journey, that's where we look at cart abandonment rates, which are typically 60 to 80%. So if you can drop it from 80% down to 60%, that's a lot of money being left on the table. It's sales conversations that have had a proposal that's out, and what do you do to close the deal, basically? And how do your marketing and sales systems support that transaction? And then the delivery phase is stage number 4. So that's marketing as customer service, marketing as product. That's, are people enjoying it so much that they're going to tell people about it? Like, what is the customer experience? So it's really seeing your whole business operations as a form of marketing from the moment of transaction to the completion of that, your financial obligation to them. It's also for ongoing memberships. How much revenue are you bringing in? So that's really where on a KPI level, we're looking at customer lifetime value, essentially, which plays into stage number 5 of the customer journey, which is referrals, loyalty, really staying much longer with you, and how, if referrals are the core of your business, it's a really good sign of what's happening. And also it's a fantastic way to increase your revenue. So the theory behind all of this is that, unlike a lot of marketers who focus on the acquisition stage, what I find when I go in with a business, they have leads, they have existing customers, they have former customers, they have a network of some kind, even if it's small. And so the question for me is, if we were to get you, I don't know, 10,000 people interested in your business who are brand new, eventually that's not going to sustain itself, because maybe you don't already know what to do with that attention. So let's figure out at every stage of the customer journey what you're doing to move people through to the next stage, to make sure that you're getting the revenue that you need for that, so that when you do get attention, so that when you do run those ads, you know what to do with it, right? You can close those deals, you can close the conversion rates, because then every marketing dollar that you spend is just optimized.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes such a, it's such a good point. It makes so much sense. But I think, as you kind of say, we often in the marketing kind of space kind of forget about that because we put so much focus on that, on those earlier stages. How do we, as a business owner, how can we map out, I guess, what our business's customer journey is?
So the way that I do it when I work with my clients is it's literally just a whiteboard that we will screen share, and it has what are the 5 different stages, what are we doing, how do we know it's working? And so that's a very gentle way of asking, are you tracking the data? But even sometimes people will say, oh, we have a little survey of how did you find us? And most people say through word of mouth or something. Like, it doesn't have to be formal data, but what are you doing? How do you know it's working? And what are our opportunities for growth? And then when you map it out all in one place and just say, what are we doing for the customer experience? And how do we know that our efforts are being connected to what we need in return, which is revenue? And when you see it all in one place, then you can start strategizing about where's our opportunities that we're not, like, what if you have a bunch of people stuck in the consideration stage? Or what if you have a lot of customers right now who just aren't paying you enough, but would pay you more? And if you just increased your rates by 20%, that would alleviate all your cash flow concerns. So what I like to do when I try and find really doable, tangible, sometimes seemingly simple solutions, and what I look at across the board of the whole customer journey is what's going to have the biggest impact and what's the easiest to do. And so that way you're not just fixated on getting people into the top of the funnel, because that can take a long time to build out those systems. I'm definitely not opposed to doing that kind of marketing, but we have to be realistic, particularly nowadays, more than I would say ever before. Marketing takes time. Marketing systems take time. There's a lot of competition out there in every space. And to acquire a client, it's taking more time and money than it ever really has before in the digital space. And so with that, we have to be realistic about optimizing when we do get a lead. Are our systems in place? So we know how to close the sale, so that we know how to have our regular touch points or email newsletters. If they're converting well, do more. If there's a nice open rate, means people want to hear from you. If people are buying in different ways, do more of what works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really great. And I think, yeah, being able to see that all, I think that's probably the best way you can see the gaps in what you're doing of, yeah, like you said, if there's people stuck in the consideration phase, or you're getting lots of people and like finding out about you, but they're not moving forward. What's then the issue? Or
Yeah.
and like even increasing, I guess you can increase that last stage as well to have people stay on with you longer and people refer you more and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And you get to see, oh, hang on, I'm leaving money on the table by not asking for a referral in these kinds of instances, or by not sending a thank you note to incentivize that. Or people say they want more XYZ that we do, but we haven't quite figured out how to deliver that model. We're spending so much money instead on getting our Instagram feed up. And so because I do see a lot of business owners, particularly new and younger business owners, conflate business ownership with social media acumen.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place for that. And it's a fantastic opportunity that has leveled the playing field globally, particularly for women and diverse populations. Like, it's great, but it's not the same thing as business. Business existed before social media. So we want to make sure that our efforts are giving us an ROI. And often, particularly for women, we don't think of our time. We just give and give and give and give of our time, and we don't even think about it. And social media is one of those places where that's very, very common. So often I'll go into a business and I'll say, hey, you had 50 clients last year. That's amazing. You, like, 10 of them are still with you. I bet you could get 10 of those back. Why don't you send an email or a phone call or schedule a lunch and just check up on them and say, we're now doing this, or I was thinking about you, and what about this project? And for whatever reason, that's scarier because it's a more real conversation. It's more vulnerability on the plate. It's more pure selling. And so we take time on TikTok making our reels, and it can be a form of hiding.
Yeah, and like 100%, I see this so often as well. And that what you said about reaching out to people and especially past customers and clients, that's usually far more effective than spending 20 hours on your social media. That it can be, as you say, a little bit scarier, and it's less sexy, it's less pretty, but it's so much more practical and actually, yeah, that effective piece. And I think people kind of forget about, almost like in, say, for my design studio, that offboarding stage of like, hey, we loved working with you, here's all the things, if here's some feedback, if you want to work with us, like here's maybe a discount code, or pass this on to your friends, and blah blah blah. Like doing those finishing off things rather than be like, all right, that person's done, I can just move on. It's no, if they were a great client, you either want them back or you want more of their friends.
Exactly. It's so much easier to maintain a relationship than to start from scratch.
I just wanted to interrupt for a moment to say that if you're enjoying this episode, I would love to invite you to my free 3-part video training to help you to create your own stunning visual brand, helping you to grow your business faster and to feel and look $1 million. If you're ready for the best year of business yet, then join over 1,000 business owners who have already taken part in the challenge to get started on creating your own brand. Join us today at whitedeer.com.au/challenge. That's the color white, the animal deer.com.au/challenge. Cannot wait to see you there. Let's get back to the episode. So when you're doing all of this research and putting things together, I know that you talk a lot about data. That's personally a weakness of mine as a visual person. I'm like, I know data is so important and I track a lot of it, but I also find it really hard to actually utilize. And so how can businesses better leverage their data to understand the customer journey and make some really like informed decisions about what steps they can do?
You bring up a really good point that around the usefulness of data. And as much as I'm very interested in finding the numbers behind our actions and making sure that things are working and testing, I also want to make sure that we don't go down a rabbit trail of feeling overwhelmed and that every single KPI matters. So this is really where the strategy work comes into play, but people can do this independently about thinking through, if I have a customer in the initial stage, what is the indicator of them going to the next stage?
Yeah.
Like what's the closest, like what's the thing that I need to track that gets them to the consideration stage? So that eliminates likes and follows and all of that stuff. It is often a website visit.
Gotcha.
Right. And so likes and follows can help with on a campaign level and on a tactical level. Like, did this post work well? Like it's a micro KPI, but it's not a direct indicator
Mm.
of whether or not someone is more likely to purchase from you. Right. So that's why I like to look at data in relation to the customer journey. I'm completely obsessed with this, and I'm hearing more and more people starting to talk about this, and that's a good thing, because then you're not just worshiping data for the sake of data and feeling inadequate if you don't understand all the numbers or where to find them or how to consolidate the data. It's empowering because you only focus on the pieces that matter, and then you only focus on the ones from there that you can take action on. There's some that it's like, okay, well, I can't do anything about that right now. or that is just going to be what that is for a while, like especially with SEO, unless if you have a lot of time and energy to devote to SEO, it's just not going to get better overnight, just with a couple of things here and there. SEO is a massive undertaking. You can offset that with running search ads, for example, to say, let's fill the gap that way. But in any case, I would just encourage you to simplify it to, okay, what's one or two KPIs at every stage of the customer journey that really matter to me, and then I know what to do.
Yeah.
When I see that. And then the big core number that we like to see across the board is the customer lifetime value.
Yeah.
And that can then go into relative to your cost of acquisition of a customer, depending on how far you want to go into those equations. But just keeping it very, very simple to start, and have a way of regularly tracking that data, whether you're syncing it into your feeds, and then either working with your team or your external marketing agency of reviewing it and saying, particularly if it's with marketing people, say, okay, what does this number mean in relation to our sales? Why am I spending this much here on this when I'm not actually seeing the sales? Like, yes, your numbers look good, but my sales numbers don't look good enough to justify that. And so then you get to start to benchmark your activities based on what it costs you and how far along that takes someone across down the customer journey.
Yeah.
I don't care if you get all the website visits in the world. If it's not converting, that's not a good ad, ultimately.
Yeah, there's a missing link somewhere, and people might think, well, that's like my sales page is the problem, but it might be the ad having the wrong messaging, that when people get to the sales page doesn't. There's so many different parts to think about, and so I guess looking at the different pieces of data, and I like the idea of not getting overwhelmed with all the different pieces of data, and kind of just working out what those important ones are and maybe focusing on those. And if you feel like doing the other ones, cool, but not putting the pressure on yourself that you have to know and be all over every single piece. Yeah, I like that.
Start with the sale transaction. When someone comes into your realm, how are you selling to them? What does that look like? What support do you need to make that better? And then build out the ripple effect from there.
Yeah.
I really do believe in starting at the end of the funnel, simplifying it. Sometimes why do you need 20 emails to send someone when you could just pick up the phone when you get a lead and do a
Phone
sales?
calls are scary.
Exactly. So and we do need to test all kinds of different approaches and whatnot, but if you look at what you need to move the dial forward, and and often for small businesses it's sales, and often we get in our own way with all the different flashy marketing that we're trying to do, when the actual sale activity is very, very simple.
That's such a good point. Okay, and so have you got any examples you could share with us, I guess, to inspire us a little bit around, I guess, your work and how you can strategically plan this customer journey and how that can improve sales or improve conversions?
Yes, I absolutely can. One of my favorite examples is a client of mine who has been in business for 20 years. She owns a retail shop. She's the best profiter in town. And once clients come to her, I've been in her store, and I cannot believe the thousands and thousands of dollars that they spend once they're in this small little retail boutique shop. And when I was sitting there watching this magic happen, she was like, "Oh, that's nothing. Like, people will spend like $30,000 with me." And it's just a small brick and mortar retail shop. So we knew that once she gets people in the door, she's good,
Yeah.
right? But she was not struggling, but just hadn't figured out exactly what's that formula for finding that uh customer, her top 100 accounts, which she nurtured and had a CRM and really built up. But she wasn't able to figure out, because they're not really on social media because they have so much money, and like they're a bit older, so they just shop. Like, how is she gonna, like, so she's trying to figure out this puzzle. And in the meantime, I was doing a deep dive on her data and looking at things, and I was like, Tanis, your open rate on your emails are outstanding. And why are you only sending them once a quarter? And she was like, "Oh yeah, as soon as I send an email, people are in the store like tomorrow, basically." So I was like, "Okay, we'll just send more of those." And sure enough, I get a phone call from her. And she's like, "It's the middle of January and we are up 500% on our sales from last year, January, because I sent more emails." And I felt it. I mean, there were strategies that we did as far as what to put in the email, but the this is looking at the whole picture. And had I guided her on, okay, let's figure out how to get more customers in the door, that would have taken 6 months of implementation for her to maybe see a doubling in her revenue, maybe, right? And testing and whatnot. And that is still underway, but
Mhm.
it really a matter of looking at where's that quick opportunity. And it was easy for her. So that's a huge win.
That's a really great story. I think, yeah, and it just really emphasizes that power of finding what's the missing link in your own customer journey, not just because I think sometimes, especially with when we're in the online space and we're looking at social media and other businesses, then we just there's this we look at what people are doing and we say, oh, I should do this, or I should do more social media, or I should do more X, Y, and Z because people are telling me that, or I'm seeing such and such do that. And it's like, that might work for you, but is that it? We don't know if that's going to be the thing that works for you. It might absolutely not be. And so looking at that really strategically, the whiteboard thing works for my head in terms of just mapping things out, map out your customer journey, and then see what those gaps are and see if you can, yeah, like you said, like this lady could get people, like once, like those last few stages of that customer journey, she had nailed, but it was just that some of those earlier phases. And so yeah, looking at what's working and doing more of that as well. And that, again, it's less fun to do, like people
Exactly.
doing the same thing for a long time is boring sometimes, but if it's working, then do that. But I think sometimes we're like, oh, I need to try this new thing or try this new thing, and you don't know if that's going to work or not, and it probably won't. And so then you're wasting all that time.
I think entrepreneurs are really used to the struggle, that it's hard for them to actually embrace it when it's going to be easy. And I think that's a huge mindset. Also, like stress healing. This has been hard for us to be entrepreneurs, and we're at this point and we found something easy that works. Releasing the struggle and just letting it be easy is an important stage in growth. And that's really where systems come in, where you start saying, okay, I can build out these scalable building blocks at every stage of my customer journey, and I can let it run.
Yeah.
I'm ready to let go of it being me beating my head against the wall, thinking that I'm not good enough because everyone else is posting this, that, and the other. It's similar to the answer that I said about my schedule at the beginning of the podcast around, I feel ashamed that I'm not like a sit down at from 9 to 5 kind
Yeah.
of person. but I get stuff done, and I do it in a way that's sustainable for me. And I think we have to think the same way about the way that we go about our marketing. We are who we are, and we are humans in business. And if we all just look the same and do the same number of posts online, we're giving away a part of our creativity and our autonomy. And it does take some confidence to know that we can just stand in our own brand, and that also means our own pace, and having the cornerstones in place that we know what's going to grow our business will help us show up more confidently in those other spaces.
Yeah, I love that. That's such good advice, and I think a really great way to end our podcast today. Thank you for everything you've shared. I think it's been some really great, really grounded advice that we can implement and not get flustered about, hopefully. I think it's really, really great. And so if we want to keep in touch or work with you or learn more about what you can do and how you can help, how do we get in touch?
Yeah, of course. I just want to say I really appreciate you facilitating this conversation. I really do believe in empowerment through grounding strategies. So I hope that this conversation is helpful to people who feel that overwhelm, which is also real. So our company is Coach House Marketing. So it's just coachhousemarketing.com. And I'm quite active on LinkedIn under my name, Alexandra Moore at Coach House Marketing. So yeah, definitely feel free to get in touch and be a part of the conversation.
That's amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So thank you for joining us for that episode. I hope you found it as insightful as I did, and that you're really excited about how you can utilize marketing really effectively and strategically for your business. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, that you hit subscribe, you give us a like, and if you're listening on your podcast app, make sure you subscribe so you can be in touch for all future episodes. I'll see you next week for another episode. Bye.